updates on Mike's mailing list at salessensesolutions.com. Mike appreciates you listening and wishes you good luck on your next sales call.
Welcome. I'm Mike Krause with the Sales Sense Reality Talk Show. I'm really excited to have Karen Marley as our guest today. She's an independent business owner, writer, and the power behind KM Wordsmith, her micropreneur writing business that specializes in content. Karen walks her talk. Since KM's Wordsmith inception, under her careful strategy, she has increased her revenue 35 to 50% every year for the past 4 years, as well as written and won numerous awards on behalf of her clients. She attributes her success to building the KM Wordsmith brand by uniting content, marketing, and sales strategies. Karen has over 10 years' experience interpreting products, accomplishments, ideas, and service with a keen ability to write material that engages, educates, and persuades. She has extensive knowledge in content marketing and leveraging content for traditional and online use. Her clients appreciate her desire to help them maximize the value of her services and deliverables. In addition to professional sales success, Karen is the mother of 2 boys, a skier, and active equestrian who competes regularly in the sport of eventing. She plans to describe the tools and strategies that unite sales and marketing effort in the ways that emphasizes in company's unique attributes. Visit her website at kmwordsmith.com. So without further ado, Karen, welcome. Thank you so much for joining me today.
Well, thank you for inviting me. It's a pleasure to be here.
Yeah, an incredible background, and you've helped me personally grow with my writing. There's no question about that. And I'm excited to learn a little bit more about what makes you unique to your business providers and kind of help us. Language writing is always a challenge for me, and share with the listeners the do's and kind of don'ts of writing and what to look out for there. So I'm excited to learn more about it.
Well, it's kind of a big question, but in terms of writers, there are, what sets me apart as a content writer is that I really see myself as an advocate for a particular client. I am an independent business writer, so when I take a client on, I really feel that I become part of their team. And so while I'm writing for a particular project, I'm always looking at the bigger picture, and I'm always looking at that particular project as part of a larger strategy. So, and with some clients, it's even evolved to the point where I'm very much part of their, brainstorming and development teams when it comes to content and marketing strategies. So it's, in addition to just putting the words in place, you really need to kind of get the bigger picture of what the purpose is about and what your objective is. I also, this is very fundamental to my strategies and to the trend of content today in terms of good content, is that so many times in the world of business, everyone refers to their target, or they have a target market, and it's so easy to put these names on a particular group when really you're writing to a person. So it's, my tagline is I use content to connect your business to people, and I think a lot of times people who are not writers tend to forget that there are personalities and needs and emotions behind the people that are reading the actual marketing piece. And that's true whether or not you're writing to a CFO, a CEO, a salesperson, if you're doing business to business or business to consumer. So you really need to focus on that person that you're writing to. Another thing that I feel that kind of sets me apart is I've had a bit of a different background. A lot of writers come into their profession from a journalist background, which is very important. And indeed, I started to go that route. And I was told not to do that, to really pursue what you are interested in and then learn the craft of writing along the way. So I ended up going in, I have a master's of science, environmental science. So I have a very analytical background and use my experience in the scientific method to be very objective in my writing, so I can interview a particular client and really pull out those elements and look at it from a very objective point of view and then look at how all the pieces fit together. So I also have experience in long copy. There are a lot of writers out there who are very, very good at taglines. They're good at brochures. And I think, when you look for a writer, you want to find someone who is talented in the area that of where your needs are. So my skills tend to be more analytical and more in long copy and the objectivity. So that's really what sets me apart, and I just make sure that message comes through in both my marketing strategies and in my conversations and the way I present myself out there. Long answer to your question.
Oh, no, but that was a long question, so good. All the time out there, it's kind of like cash is king. Now, content is king. What makes good content? When you hear that, when I hear that, what is content is king? What does that mean to a reader? And explain that a little bit more to the listeners about, what content is.
Oh, that's another big one. I'll try and break that down for you. When I hear the term content is king, I look at it in two ways. One is the idea that, I did a Google research, and we're on average, the numbers vary, but on average we're exposed to between 8,000 and 9,000 push marketing messages a day. You think about how many advertisements are in your face all the time, billboards, on your computer screen, you're getting calls on your telephone, the television, on your phone, everything. You're just bombarded with it. And people are just grown tired. They're, I call it the weary and leery of traditional advertising. There's too many ads. So content has emerged as a way for people to really look for and do some research on a particular company. And, at the same time, largely due to, the way the economy has developed over the last couple of years, purchase cycles have grown as well. So people are taking a lot longer and becoming a lot more educated before they feel comfortable in investing. And, I think I need to qualify and say that that's true for business to consumers. If you're making a larger purchase, of course you're not going to do that if you're just, buying a quick little object. But for business to business, it's true, because so the larger the purchase, the more time someone's going to invest, and they really want to know who their provider is, who's providing that service, and content is a way for them to get that message across. And then on the other hand is that you want to make sure from the provider's point of view that the content that you're providing is a true reflection of what you can provide. So not only are you persuading, but you're presenting the message and use the word features, but you're presenting what you can provide. So that way, when somebody does buy from you, it's a great match, and everyone's happy in the end, because then that person will go off and have great word of mouth. It will be part of the social media scene, so that ties into. And, a lot of research has gone into, and word of mouth is the best way, is the most influential factor when somebody is determining their purchasing decision on who they're going to buy from. And the best way to improve word of mouth is through content. So,
absolutely. And how do you, walk the listeners through a little bit more about the do's and don'ts of good content or good writing? What are some things you've seen out there that you do that are great, and then some things that are like absolutely not to do?
Well, sometimes I look back at my really old things and cringe a little bit myself. But trends change, the way people process information changes. So that it's a changing field. So you always want to be kind of aware of how people are reading. But there are some basics. There's a misuse of bullet points. There's basic grammar. There are editors who can really know the 17 different ways to use a comma, but you do need a basic grasp of grammar. When it's appropriate to use capitals, how to use commas, correctly using bullet points. So there's editing for grammar, and then there's the thought process too. If you have a title, you really want to have a great title, but you want the title to be a promise of what's in the body. And sometimes, you can tell a professional writer from someone that just is throwing something out there, because they'll put a title and then it grabs your attention, but there's really nothing in the body that fulfills that promise of a particular title. So you almost feel like you got pulled into something that didn't deliver. And instead of leaving you feel like you've been given more information, you almost feel a little cheated, like, it's like, well, what happened? So, it's subtle, but those little tidbits of emotion begin to add up in terms of the effectiveness and the persuasive quality and lifting, the persuasive lifting power, I guess you could say, of or strength of a piece. So, you want to string your ideas together as well. You don't want to ramble on. So, there's that old adage that says, say what you want, say what you're going to say it, then summarize what you just said. And that's pretty much true. You want to give people an outline so they feel that there's a plan when they're reading, that there's a beginning, a middle, and then there's a summarized conclusion. One technique you can use is in your summary, make sure that your summary kind of captures what you promised at the beginning, that there's some kind of a match to really, pull the whole thing together. I mean, and this isn't huge. I mean, I have a fifth grader, and this is a tactic that he was learning even in fourth grade, and it's amazing how much business writing I see that doesn't have that. I would also advocate that you remember that a person is reading it, and so while some level of business speak is necessary, I almost see an overkill of it in writing today. So you kind of want to keep things simple, straightforward, and use basic terminology when you're writing.
Yeah, speak at a fourth grade level, right, or something like that. Isn't that why USA
Today
is popular? Yeah.
It's true, and I'm sorry. Go ahead.
No, go ahead.
Well, I was going to say, and I don't think it has anything to, that write at a fourth grade level really doesn't, it's not an indicator of someone's intelligence. It's just that you're writing to people who are very, very busy. And so you want to keep things very simple, very straightforward, so they can go through, digest it, remember the few things, speaking points that you're trying to make, and then walk away with, they walk away with the main points that you're trying to get across. So, keep it simple.
That's perfect lead into my next question with social media. How has that impacted the world of writing? And I'd love to get your opinion on that as a professional writer. Has it helped us or hurt us, or how has it changed the marketplace of writing?
Oh, I think it's been a huge change in writing. I think because of social media, that term content is king has really started circulating, and probably, it's a victim of its own words. I mean, somebody put it out there and it probably spread on social media as well. But social media is an interesting beast. Some people use it in the same form as the older, the old school advertising, where they just go on and they just start advertising what they have. And really, social media, the emphasis is on social. People are there so they can learn things, talk to each other, share ideas, find out more information. They don't want to be, they're not there to read advertisements. They're there to enjoy themselves, gather solid, helpful, relevant information. So, if you can put that out there representing your company, it's great. And people do that in the forms of white papers, reports, blogs. They have it on their website. I mean, there's whole strategies that you can use that you can provide and be, quote, part of the conversation. The other side of social media is that, it helps. There's a whole technical side of it, and I'm not overly familiar with the inner mechanisms, but there's page ranking, so it can really kind of help, help the visibility of your website. So, yeah, social media has been huge. One last point before I turn it back to you. In terms of writing, some businesses are experimenting, and this, get back to the writers. There's two ways that you can approach the writing, and some businesses will want to just have as much content as possible, and that's certainly a good thing. Sometimes there are services that will provide, cheap content where you just pay very small fees and you get article after article after article. They're very generic articles. They don't really, they're just very you know, they're good. They're not, you can't flaw them, but they don't, what they lack is the ability to reflect a business's unique selling voice. So what sets you apart from the competition will not be reflected in articles that are provided by these mass content services. And that's the value where you get a true content professional, because they will go in and turn your content into marketing pieces. And that's important to know, because as soon as you start to not be distinct and you're not unique and you don't provide a certain level of value that sets yourself apart from your competitors, then you become a commodity and it all becomes just about who has the lowest price. So I think that's a very careful path businesses want. They want to decide before going down that path in terms of budgeting in for the type of content that you're going to put out there.
So true. You know, when you see a content feed and it just sounds generic, there's something about it that sounds generic, I get turned off by that too. If I feel that it's not coming from the person that I thought of, I like your term earlier, cheated. I feel like I've been duped into something, and I definitely feel that sometimes when I read that. That's so true.
Yeah, I mean, you know, I have a quick little story. You know, I have my own, I run a newsletter, you know, because I use content for my own marketing purposes. But I have a newsletter, and, you know, it comes out about once a month. And in my last article, I included a little anecdote, and this is true. I receive 2 newsletters from 2 different realtors, and one realtor, you can tell that he writes the pieces, and they're very specific for the Rochester market, which is where I live. And they're interesting. Whether or not you're in the market to buy or sell a home, it doesn't matter. The pieces are interesting. He talks about why home values are changing, what you can expect. I mean, and they're very relevant to people in this region. The other newsletter that has been showing up in my mailbox is very generic. It was like how to choose paint colors for your room. I mean, you can get that anywhere. And I thought, when it comes time to sell my house, I would go with the person who clearly puts more time, effort, and money into the personalized newsletter, because to me that's a reflection of the kind of service he gives his client. I don't see myself as a generic person. I don't think any of your listeners right now see themselves as a generic person. I don't think they want generic service. And you know, so being unique to the reader is what sets you apart and makes you memorable.
Absolutely. You know, at the end of the day, we're all people and we buy from people. What are some tips that you can give a business owner or a sales professional? Those are the 2 people that primarily listen. And how can you help them achieve like a writing success, I guess? What are some things that you can provide or do for people?
Well, I have a list of services, but you know, someone can go to my website and look at the types of services that I provide. But I can, if there's time, I'll go into that a little bit. But what I think I would rather do is provide some advice on how someone can sit down. They can either do this themselves, or they can bring someone like myself or another writer in to help them work through this process. You know, if you want to incorporate writing into your marketing and sales strategies, the first thing that has to be united is speaking the same voice. So when I sit down for an interview, I have some very specific questions that I ask. You know, when you look at your target audience, and I know there's that generic term, but you know, for sake of practicality, when you look at your target audience, you know, what are the obstacles what are their issues that they're trying to overcome? And what is your unique selling proposition? What do you do that's separate, that's distinct from your competition? And how do your clients or your potential prospects perceive you? You know, do they recognize that you're different from your competition? You know, do you have a higher purpose? You know, there's a good example for an airlines. You know, you can look at different types of airline companies, and they all sell tickets to fly. But Southwest believes that everyone deserves to fly, and that affects their entire persona in their marketing. It gives them a personality. So, you know, see if if you can't look into your business and see if you have that higher purpose, what do you really believe in on behalf of your clients? Another question, what benefits do your clients receive when they work with you or purchase your product? Write it down, make a bullet point list. What do you do better than the competition? And then one thing, I'm skipping a lot of questions, but one thing that I always try to get out of an interview, and you can sit down, our listeners can sit down with their marketing team or with their sales force. When you speak to a prospect, what are the 3 main points you want to convey to them about your company? So you get all that on paper, and then make sure that the content that you provide, your marketing materials, reflect that information. And that's also the same message that sales can be using in their sales techniques. And you can use content tools to help unite that message. So for example, if you have, the classic example is a case study. So if you have a case study, you can use it in a newsletter, you can put it on your website. There are all sorts of different things, different ways that you can use it both to gain exposure. But a case study, you can also slip it into an information packet, and it becomes a very good tool or leave behind for your sales team or your sales force to go out when they're talking with a particular prospect. You can leave it behind. They can mail the case study to somebody. They can put it on, have it as a PDF and email it to someone to make it easier on time. And then it's just the way that all of a sudden the voice is being united between the website, marketing messaging, and as well as what the sales force is using. White papers, reports are another way of doing it, and increasingly so, blogs are. I mean, you can take your salespeople, and again, this gets back into the story aspect of case studies. You can make a blog, and then maybe once every 2 weeks, invite one of your sales representatives to write about a particular experience they had with the client and how they helped that client overcome a particular obstacle. Turn it into these success stories and post it on your blog. And that then becomes an archive of potential prospects that, they're searching your site at 11 o'clock at night when you're asleep, and all of a sudden they find this treasure chest full of convincing information about how you helped other clients or other customers get over all these problems. So those are different tools that you can use content to really reflect what your unique selling proposition is, as well as unite that marketing and sales voice and give the sales team actual tools in their hand.
I love that word, treasure chest, or words. That is so powerful, and you bring up an excellent point. When, people, that's the advantage to me with social media and the blogs is with just what you stated. At 11 o'clock, your prospect or client can go out there after the day and just scan around, surf the internet, and then all of a sudden they find this mountain or treasure of information, and you are a resource all of a sudden out of nowhere. I really think that's the impact of content and having a blog and having a systematic approach of your writing. And, I think that's just, you hit the nail on the head there with the treasure chest. That's me and you.
And it's very persuasive. I can't say I've read the book cover to cover, but, in the sphere of writers, a popular book is Cialdini's book, The Psychology of Persuasion, and Cialdini was originally a psychologist, and they looked at what are persuasive tactics for people. And one of them is that if you give somebody, no matter what, the recipient feels indebted to you to some degree. They feel a sense of gratitude. It might be very small. It might be at some level almost imperceptible, but it's there. So, which is completely different than having an advertisement that says, come buy from us, as opposed to, here, this is some helpful information, and the value of good marketing content. There's a soft sell in the information that you're giving. You're helping them realize or come to the conclusion that you are really a good fit for that person. So And if you're not, well, then maybe you don't want that client because you really want to encourage, eventually, word of mouth.
So true. You know, the more you give, the more you get. I mean, and that's one of the things that I coach salespeople. Please do not lead with that brochure. You know, that's just a recipe for disaster. You know, that's a leave behind or a case study or a white paper or some sort of information. You leave that at the end of the call as a thank you. You know, here's some more information. I know we couldn't cover it all in the call. These are some things, and then this person can read it when they want. It's just a powerful tool. So.
And you definitely, you know, getting back to the tips and tactics, you definitely want to have a call to action at the end of your leave behind. You know, you don't want to sound like this hard sell. You know, for example, if you're leaving behind a report or a white paper, you want your company name on it. You want to have a call to action, but you, above all, you want to stay true to the focus of providing helpful information. You know, and getting, you know, also going back to one of your earlier questions, sometimes I go online and I see things that are called white papers, and they read like 3-page advertisements, and which could be farther from the truth of what a white paper really is, and that's to help answer a specific question that a prospect or client might have. So, you know, but that call to action at the end is always very, very important.
That's a great question that I'd like to talk a little bit more about. What is a white paper? That term is thrown out there, just like you mentioned. A white paper, I think, is just misused. What is the definition of a white paper?
A white paper is it's a hybrid between a brochure and an article. It's designed to answer in depth a very specific question or provide a specific set of information to help a client come to make a particular decision. So, you know, a white paper, I mean, see, I might mess this up a little bit, but I don't know how much you want to go into the history of it, but originally a white paper was a political document that was out there to help legislatures decide whether or not they were going to move forward on a particular piece of legislation. That's morphed into the business world. They were very popular in technical papers for a while. You know, I can't come up with a title because you know, I haven't worked in the tech industry and I've written anything about the tech industry in a bit, but it's morphed over into to cover many different industries. And a typical white paper is 7 to 10 pages. It has graphs, charts, information that's presented both in words and visuals to help the reader understand more about a particular topic that helps them answer a specific question. There's a great resource, I cannot remember the name of the actual site, but if you type white paper and Michael Stelzner, he's pretty much the authority on writing white papers in the United States, and he has a white paper forum and all sorts of great information there. And, you know, I recommend that people can go to that website and learn a little bit more about it. You know, I've taken a number of classes from him, including a white paper success summit. So, you know, you can always call me and I can talk to people in depth if they really want to explore that question further.
Yeah, absolutely. And, you know, we're at the end already. It went fast, and I've learned a lot. Tell the listeners a little bit more about any last-minute thoughts that you have and how they can connect with you, and any tips or anything. You know, whatever you'd like to tell the audience would be great, and make sure that they can reach out to you, obviously, too.
Yeah, I'm trying to come up with a conclusion. I know as soon as I hang up the phone, I'm going to be flooded with them. You know, I just think, you know, there's value in having a writer or having somebody take a look at your writing and, you know, just stay focused on the technique and make sure that what you're putting out there is a true reflection of the type of business that you have. And get second opinions. Have people read it and be open for criticism so that you can, you know, if you're going to do it on your own, so that way you can be sure that what you're putting out is good quality, because it's, you know, the content you produce is your business's face. so you want to make sure it's looking good.
And it's out there forever.
Yes, it is. It's definitely there. Yeah, you can go to my website to learn more. On my website, I'm currently migrating it over to a blog format on Thesis. But right now, as my website stands, I have a whole bunch of resources on content marketing. You can just go to what's called the content toolbox and click away and explore. I've compiled a bunch of links, papers, different resources for people. I also put out a newsletter once a month called Really Useful Content that links to the blog. It also comes up with some other information. I provide valuable links, and it tends to be a little bit more casual in tones. People can enjoy and relax when they read it. Or people can call me directly. My number's right on my website. People can call me at 585-266-4818.
Okay. Well, thank you, Karen, so much for your time this afternoon, and I really have enjoyed our time together. Next week I have Jeff Hazlitt he was the Chief Marketing Officer from Kodak, and he wrote a book called The Mirror Test is Your Business Breathing, and that'll be next week at 12 o'clock to 12:30 Eastern Standard Time, same channel. And I wish everyone good luck on their next sales call, and thanks again for listening. Have a great day.